All right, welcome everyone. Hello, my name is Tommy Phillips. I am the president and artistic director of the Philharmonic Society of Orange County. Today, I am honored to be joined by two wonderfully bright stars in classical music, Sheku and Isata Kanneh-Mason. Welcome, Sheku and Isata.
Thank you.
Hello, thank you.
Sheku, of course, made headlines with his. All right, welcome everyone. Hello, my name is Tommy Phillips. I guess I can hear myself. Okay, let's try that again. There's a delay. So we're here with Sheku and Isata Kanneh-Mason. Sorry about that. Sheku made headlines in 2018 with his performance at the royal wedding of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, held at Windsor Castle. And his performance is watched by nearly 2 billion people globally. Since then, he's received multiple awards and accolades and has been touring the world both as a concerto soloist as well as in recitals, namely with his sister, who we're here with today, Isata Kanneh-Mason. Isata has an amazing list of accomplishments herself, including having held the prestigious Elton John Scholarship for her undergraduate studies at the Royal Academy of Music. She also performed then with Sir Elton John in Los Angeles in 2013. She was a finalist of the BBC Young Musician Competition in 2014, winning the Most Promising Musician Award. And she too has performed around the UK and abroad with concerto appearances, solo recitals, chamber ensembles, venues like Wigmore Hall, the Royal Festival Hall, appearances in places like the Lucerne Festival, and as well as Carnegie Hall. So welcome Sheku and Isata once again. And finally, joining me this afternoon or evening, depending where you're watching from, is award-winning arts journalist for Classical KUSC. He is the producer and host of the internationally syndicated concert broadcasts of the Los Angeles Philharmonic, with more than 3 people tuning in to hear that every season. He is well-versed in the conversations with dozens of top classical musicians and artists, and he also happens to be our regular pre-concert commentator and lecturer. I'm thrilled to have him join me today for this interview. Please also welcome Brian Lauritsen.
Thanks, it's great to be here, and I miss all of you at Renee and Henry Segerstrom Concert Hall. I wish I could be holding a mic on stage and y'all could be in the seats, but such is life in 2020, unfortunately.
Great. Well, I'm having some audio problems, so I'm going to let Brian take the first question here and
sure.
Hit it off with our guest.
Well, Sheku, Isata, it's so great to welcome you to this event. Thank you for doing this. You're in London right now, as I understand it, and I'm just curious, just kind of if you could sort of recap what your experience has been like this year when dates started to get canceled, when you started to realize like just what exactly we were in for. What was the pivot like to what 2020 became?
Yeah, it was. I remember I did my the last concert before we had lockdown here in March was in London, and I remember the feeling after that concert of really feeling like it was the last of doing a concert for a long time, and that was really the general feeling, and it was quite a shock and kind of and unmotivating knowing that all of the concerts and the things that you've been preparing for a long time over this year, to see those things being cancelled. And there was that kind of brief few weeks of really feeling unmotivated, and the motivation for practice was much less, and things like that. But then I think also because I was at home with my whole family and everyone they're all musicians, and so to be around that was really inspiring. And so I found it relatively easy to kind of find a newfound kind of inspiration to play and to discover music and to try and perform in live streamed things, and to try and kind of make the most of a very, very difficult situation.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the thing that I found, I mean, once you kind of got over the initial shock and sadness of all of the concerts being cancelled, I stopped kind of looking at the year as it would have been and thinking, oh, I would have been doing this, I would have been doing that, because that wasn't helping. And then just kind of focused on what I could do with all of the extra time that I would kind of be glad that I did looking back in a few years. So just, spending more time playing music for the sake of playing and getting deeper into pieces, and also spending more time doing things outside of music like reading and spending time with family that could then be added to the music later on, because I think then you know, in 2-3 years, when hopefully everything's exactly as it was, or, you know, you're doing live concerts, you look back and you think, oh, that time has really helped me.
That's a really healthy perspective, to not be thinking about what we would be doing, because I think we've all got our calendars and we all have those dates filled in, and to look at it, it's really like bleak outlook. But for you to just sort of say, embrace the moment and say, okay, well, this is what the moment has given us. What are we going to do with this moment? I think it's a really healthy perspective. For those who don't know the size of your family, you say you were locked down with your family. That's many siblings. What was the vibe like in your home this year?
Yeah, so we have, I have, as well as Isata, 4 other sisters, and we both have a brother.
There's 7 of us
so
all together.
Yeah, exactly. So at home there was all 7 of us and our parents as well, and we had a friend also staying with us in the lockdown. So it was a house of 10 of us. So as you can imagine, it was quite packed, and we were all
not lonely.
Not lonely at all. And actually, it was really, really nice, because it meant that although we were all locked down in the same place, there was never a feeling of being, I don't know, bored. There was always different people to talk to and to go for a walk with, or to play with, and that kind of kept us going, I think.
Yeah, and we also felt really grateful, because it was at a time when lots of people were, you know, lonely and alone, and kind of, we were very aware of that. So I think kind of the knowledge that we didn't have to go through that on top of everything else put things into perspective.
Yeah. Sheku, you mentioned a period of feeling sort of unmotivated to practice. And I've talked to so many musicians during this year about how they did use this moment as an opportunity to just sort of step away from music for a while. Did either of you take time away from music, or have a moment where you just said, I'm just going to put everything on pause because I can? Yeah,
I mean, no, I don't think I ever had like a pause, but there was definitely a pause from performing, which was of course a forced pause, but actually in a way, it, as I was saying, gave me the chance to play for the sake of playing, and that's kind of playing without and learning pieces and practicing pieces without a kind of deadline and a specific performance for them, which is of course when I was younger how I learned and got really, really interested in playing the cello. And so to come back to that kind of feeling and approach was really, really nice, and also to get ahead of the game, in the sense of looking at what I'm playing in a few years' time and kind of starting working on that, I think is I guess an investment for the future. Which
learning new pieces,
learning lots of new repertoire, and which is it's really, really useful and really nice, especially I guess now I'm relatively young and my brain can still learn new things, but that is of course Langer
already.
What about for you, Isata? Time away from the keyboard at all?
I mean, for me, time away from performing and having, sorry if you can hear the siren in the background. Time away from performing and having lots of kind of constant upcoming deadlines was time away from me. There's never really been a period of time in my life where I've stepped away from the piano for longer than a week or two. So I think that wouldn't have felt natural, but kind of playing the piano in a more relaxed way and approaching music in a different way, and also having more time in my day to incorporate other things, felt like time away, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm curious also about the experience. I mean, so you're at home, you're not walking into an artist's entrance, there's no green rooms in your life this year, no concert hall, and I think most crucially, no visible audience and no energy, so no feedback from people that you're playing for. You're playing basically for a camera this year. Has that impact, or how has that impacted the way that you make music this year and maybe perhaps going forward?
Yeah, it has been it's been something to get used to, because I love live performances where the audience is there, and the kind of focus and energy in the room is something very, very, very special, and that's why we do what we do, I guess, and to perform to a camera is a different thing, and it is wonderful to be able to share music with people who aren't there and who may be on the other side of the world and still sharing in this experience. But of course, I wouldn't say that can ever be a replacement for being in the room with the musicians. But I think in the future can work alongside this and reaching wider and bigger audiences with this music. I think the streaming thing can really work in that sense. But yeah, the best thing is a proper live concert.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say exactly the same. And I think because we have done a couple of live concerts over the last kind of 6 months in a socially distanced way when restrictions have allowed, and the energy in those live concerts has been really, really exciting. There's kind of a fresh appreciation and just a joy to be in a live concert from the audience and from the performers as well. And I think that's really just made you even more appreciative of live concerts when they do happen.
I have a follow-up to that. I think I'm back now. Sorry about that. Are there some specific engagements or concerts that are hopefully in the future far enough out that they're not going to be impacted that you're especially looking forward to? Is there some really milestone concert or venue or collaboration that you have on the horizon?
Yeah.
That you can share.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, for me, well, actually, I'm not still sure if this is definitely going to happen, but as a family, every year we go to Antigua, which is where our dad's side of the family is from, and we do some concerts there and play in schools as well, because there's not so much classical music on the island, and we wanted to bring more. And that's always a really lovely trip, and it's 10 days long, and of course it was cancelled this year. And it looks like it should be able to happen next year. So I'm really looking forward to that. And yeah.
What about you, Sheku?
Yeah, definitely Antigua, because of course it's a wonderful place to go for a holiday, but also to have the relaxing time, but also work with the children there and really, really talented young people, and also learn from their approaches to music and the music that is traditional and comes from the island, and also play classical music with them. It's really special to be part of a project that will hopefully last many, many years. It's very special.
Yeah. Well, and a bit of a different question, and speaking of traditions and a different kind of holiday, the holidays that we're in now, you were so gracious to join us earlier this morning or this evening, depending where you're watching, and you spoke to some of our members of our Orange County Youth Symphony. And we were talking about the holidays, and I wonder what holiday traditions that you have or that you would normally have had that may have changed this year. And I'm curious, I see the two of you obviously are together. Have you been able to spend time with the rest of your family during the holidays? And are there musical traditions that you as a family have that either you're able to continue on this year or that you're looking forward to doing again next year?
Yeah, so the holidays haven't started yet. We're able to mix up to 3 households for Christmas, luckily. So we'll be going home to our parents in a few days, and that's when the holidays will start. And so it's not too different. I mean, we're not able to see our extended family and our grandparents, but we saw them last Christmas. So we'll still be able to have kind of a big family Christmas because our immediate family is still quite big. So we'll be able to have all the kind of usual traditions. And in terms of musical traditions, I mean, no one ever touches their instruments on Christmas Day ever, and no one ever has. So that's never will. But kind of in the days before Christmas, often we like to do lots of sight reading, and there's like a couple of pieces that we tend to sight read every year as a Christmas tradition, and that's always really lovely. And then there's always lots of board games and kind of similar types of Christmas food every year that we always know to expect. And yeah. And then in terms of presents, we also do a sibling secret Santa because there are 7 of us. So to have 7 people buying 7 presents is a bit much. So we kind of put names in a hat and everyone buys one person for one person, which is great.
Have you passed the hat yet this year? Do you know who you've got?
I can't say who because the Maester would know.
Because it's secret, of course. Yeah. Don't worry, we won't ruin Christmas here on this this Q&A. I remember my first intersection with your family's music making was actually a Facebook video of Chardash, which just absolutely blew me away. I'm like, what in the world? How are they? Oh my God, this is amazing. And I've been following y'all ever since. You released an album this year, a family album. What was that experience like? Recording at home, or did you find a way to use a studio? How did it all come together?
Yeah, it was it was really, really great to be able to record with the family. And actually, because of the lockdown, we were all at home together, so it meant kind of getting together to rehearse and prepare for the album, and also having nothing else going on meant that that actually worked in the album's favor. And luckily we were able to record in a studio in London, because it was in August, just at the time where lockdowns were kind of easing up in the UK. And so we recorded in Abbey Road Studios in London, which is a wonderful place to record with a great history. And I think it was really exciting.
Decent history, yeah.
Yeah.
Not bad. And so yeah, it was really, really nice for all of our family to record together. For our younger siblings, it was their first time recording, and so it was really exciting for them, as it was for us too as well.
Yeah, and we also recorded with a few other musicians as well. And for many of them, and for us, it was kind of the first time playing with other musicians since before the lockdown. And so there was a really special energy in the studio for those couple of days.
I'm curious, well, because obviously you've played with your family members for your entire lives. Has that affected how you play chamber music with others? And do you still enjoy? I think the answer is yes. But playing with your family, do you find it different playing with non-family members than you do with your family in terms of chamber music?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's different playing with anyone
Yeah.
different, and it's, of course, it's wonderful playing with people you know very, very well, and there's a kind of trust and freedom that we have playing together as a family, and also I still with playing with our close friends and people we've played together a lot with. But there's also an excitement playing with people you don't know, and getting to know them through playing with them is also really, really exciting, and you learn from those experiences as well. So I'm always open to lots of, I mean, chamber music is something that is definitely my favorite way of making music.
And we asked this question of you earlier, but since we have a different audience, what dream collaborators do you each have? Musicians that you haven't yet worked with, that you are aspiring or would someday hope to be able to work with?
Yeah, so I was saying earlier, I mean, there are so many musicians that I want to work with, and it's hard to think of them all off the top of my head. But I've been watching lots of Janine Jansen videos recently, and I just love how she plays chamber music. So she would be wonderful to work with.
I would say Yo-Yo Ma. I haven't changed my mind from the earlier question, because he's a musician that I've always been inspired, not just by his playing, but his approach to music and the openness to lots of different styles. And I think I would learn so much from his open approach to music.
Just to piggyback on that question, we've got a question from an audience member, Maya in Chino, wants to know maybe a non-classical artist too that you might be interested in collaborating with. Isata, you've already got Elton John on your list.
Yeah, I mean, I really love Esperanza Spalding's music, and I listen to her a lot, so she would be amazing to collaborate with. Although I don't really have any training in jazz, so I would have to learn that, but yeah.
I would probably say, I don't know. I'm not sure how it would work, but I like Eminem a lot. And, maybe we could write a song together.
I'd love to see something with all of those combined somehow. Eminem, Esperanza Spalding, the two of you, that would be excellent.
It'd be a good album.
Yeah. We'll figure out how to make that happen. So when you play chamber music, is it different playing with your family? Is it versus playing with non-family? Is it more difficult maybe to play with people that you're so close to that you know all of the idiosyncrasies of your siblings and everything, or do you have more impassioned arguments with siblings versus non-family, or is it basically the same experience?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is the trust, and I think the freedom that comes from really trusting who you're playing with means that there can be this kind of spontaneity and freedom, which is something that is, I think, very lovely and important in live performance. And so that's a luxury that we have. But I think
when it comes to playing with a musician, I think as long as you kind of have similar values and feelings about music, then it's always going to be wonderful. And even if it's the first time you're playing together, it's going to be enjoyable. I think, of course, because there are as many different types of musicians as there are types of people, so some people will always work better together than others. But I think even if you meet and play with a musician who it doesn't quite gel as well as it does with other people, it's still a learning experience because you get to witness a different style of playing.
Yeah.
We have a couple more questions that were submitted, and I'm going to kind of combine two. Elliot Kim from Irvine, California asked, what made you choose to play piano and cello respectively? And do you play any other instruments?
Yeah, so we actually both started on the piano. It's kind of the easiest instrument to start on. And then I just continued with the piano because I was inspired listening to different pianists, listening to Rachmaninoff, who was a pianist and also wrote some beautiful piano concertos, which I loved in my early childhood. And so it's kind of never really so much of a conscious planned decision what instrument you end up playing. I mean, it sounds quite cliche to say it chooses you, but you definitely kind of just have a natural inclination towards an instrument, and you just end up with it, I think.
Yeah, I think for me, I started on the piano and then I started on the violin actually as well. And then I remember after maybe a few, I don't know, every time I think it was probably like 6 months, but it felt, I don't know, I don't really remember it much at all. But I remember
get shorter and shorter every time.
I remember exactly. I remember watching an orchestra and being really excited about the sound and look of the cello.
And Susan Asplin from Coventry, England, asked, what ages did you start learning your instruments?
I was 6.
Yeah, I was 6.
Right. And is that about the age when your siblings began as well? Is that the magical Kanneh-Mason age?
Yeah, most people were 6. I think any age between 4 and 7 is kind of like a good age. One of our sisters started at 3, but that's because everyone else was already playing and she was quite determined and we couldn't stop her. So.
Yeah.
Is there an instrument you wish you could play?
I wish I could sing. I think.
Yeah, I wish I could sing too.
Go ahead, Tommy.
I was just going to ask, in this time of lockdown and chaos and this whatever we call this time one day, have you been able to find time that you didn't have before to either focus on a piece, a style, or something non-musical? What have you found an opportunity to, and if so, to do musically or non-musically with some of the extra time you may have otherwise been concertizing?
Yeah, so definitely during the lockdown, I spent more time kind of playing Bach, because Bach's always a composer that I haven't really performed that much, but I really love his music. And so with the extra time, I thought, oh, it'd be nice to kind of just play Bach just for fun and just to enjoy playing him, basically.
Yeah, I was learning a few of the Bach suites over the lockdown as well, which was a nice luxury not to perform as well, just to get it inside my fingers as well, which was really nice. I think it's lovely to just learn music because why not?
Perhaps a Bach album coming our way sometime.
Sheku doesn't play Bach in public.
Yeah.
You don't play Bach in public?
I haven't done.
Yeah.
That's not to say I wouldn't. But,
I'm sure there will be a moment for that at some point, right?
Hopefully, yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. It's such an interesting, the approach that the Bach means so much to the cello and to cellists that it's a really important and serious moment when you choose to really tackle it and decide what your interpretation is going to be and what your response to that music is going to be, and how you approach it, right? I mean,
Definitely.
Sorry, we just had a slight technical issue.
Okay.
Oh.
We're still here. It's just the screen's suddenly gone really small.
Big enough to see.
It's big enough to see you, so we'll just carry on.
Yeah, no, it's true. I think I love Bach's music, and it's almost so personal and so intimate that maybe that's what makes it difficult, in my opinion, to perform. There's things that you do in private that you probably wouldn't share with the world, and I think maybe that's my feeling at the moment with Bach.
Sure.
Well, I'd love to know on a going from the very serious of Bach to the very non-serious, perhaps. But you mentioned earlier, and I'd love to hear more about the other non-musical activities that you've been doing in your off time. And you were talking about some holiday traditions, and I hear that your family likes to play a lot of board games or games together with your siblings. What are some of your favorite family activities there?
Yeah, so we love any kind of game that has some form of quiz. I mean, it's great to do kind of quizzes and be in teams. We also love word games, and Monopoly is always an all-time favorite. I mean, anything that's competitive, and there are always certain games that other people are better at, and all games I'm the best at. But no, we just love playing games, and it's just a great way to kind of have a competitive spirit, but in a fun way.
Is there a healthy sibling rivalry, I guess, musically or non-musically in your family?
Yeah, so the rivalry is definitely there in games, but then it's not there musically. Musically, we tend to we'll do family concerts and kind of give each other feedback and support each other, but there's never competition between us when it comes to music. So I think it all just gets released into games.
Great.
Sheku, the top line in your bio is always going to be that thing that it is, right? The 2 billion people watching you at the royal wedding. I'm curious, do you think you'll get tired of being asked about that, or tired of talking about that experience? Or is it going to be just kind of a life highlight that you're going to kind of always carry with you, and just cherish that memory? Or I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be tired of it necessarily. I think it's for a lot
like
of
every
people.
interview you're going to be asked about it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because for a lot of people, it was the first time seeing me perform, and how they've heard of my music. It's tricky because it wasn't the performance that took. Actually, it's probably very, very low down in terms of how much work it took and preparation it took to prepare for a performance like that, compared to kind of any recital or any concerto performance. And so it's significant for me in terms of the audience and people perform to, but in terms of concerts that have personally been most important, it wouldn't be so high on the list. But I don't mind being associated with that.
I mean, it's one of those things that, like, I mean, I guess it's not going to define you because you have so much of your career still in front of you, but it is the thing that, literally 2 billion people saw. And, I think a lot of us non-musicians or former lapsed musicians, imagining that kind of a big stage is really overwhelming. Was it for you, or did you just sort of roll with it?
Luckily, all 2 billion people weren't in the room.
Well, yeah, exactly. I was just performing to the people in the room, and playing music that I knew very, very well and felt comfortable with, and we'd rehearsed. And so, yeah, I just kind of enjoyed it as I would any. Well,
I mean, it was supposed to be your United States debut here in Southern California, so we always kind of have a little bit of a piece of jealousy or chip on our shoulder, like, oh, they had to get married that weekend. But
no,
what are we gonna do?
Yeah, I did feel really bad about it, and I do kind of have I would hate to cancel kind of any performance, but I was glad that was able to be, it was able to be postponed till the year after.
Yeah, don't worry, we understand.
Free pass on that one.
Yeah, exactly.
We have another question that's come in from the chat, and Angelica from Fullerton asks, what's the best piece of musical advice that either of you have received as in your career as musicians or as students?
I mean, I think for me, recently, one of my teachers, well, I say recently, it was actually several months ago, but anyway, she said that it's always important to kind of keep your confidence high, but also keep your confidence low. And I think what she meant by that is when you're kind of giving concerts and performing, you have to be sure of yourself when you walk on stage. No matter how you're feeling, you have to kind of believe in what you have to say musically and, just give your all to the concert. But then when you're off stage, it's important to kind of be humble from the perspective of you always want to be learning and growing and knowing that there's always more to discover. You can't always kind of be on a self-assured high in your practice, because otherwise you might not get to the next level.
I would say that the kind of mentality that all of my teachers have instilled into me is one of always questioning and being constantly interested and exploring music and questioning why I play something like that, and really, really just constantly discovering in the practice and in performance. And I think that's what keeps me going, and is why I love the music so much. And I think it's really important to always be, as I said, exploring and questioning, and that, and yeah, be motivated to learn more.
What is your relationship like with the musical mentors in your life, the teachers that you've had, and when is the moment where you transition? Like, I mean, obviously your careers are in full swing, of course. The moment that you sort of transition from, considering yourself a student versus then, these teachers are just, the people that I can go to as mentors, and as I can ask questions and seek advice, but it's no longer like a lesson anymore. Like, what's that moment like, and what sort of, when does that come?
I mean, I'm not sure. I'm still a full-time student at the Royal Academy of Music in London, so I have my lessons every week there, and I'm still very, very much,
every week. Yeah, wow.
Very, very much a student. And I think even when I finish my undergrad at the end of next year, I will still probably have very, very regular lessons, because at the moment there's still so much I can learn from the teacher I play to. And I think it's really nice always having someone pushing you, and someone who really, really knows you're playing and is therefore able to kind of have a long-term development and growth with you. But
No, I would say a similar thing. I mean, at the moment, I'm in a slightly different position because I'm not studying anymore, so I have private lessons once a month. But I think I've always had a teacher for each stage of life. So, my first teacher would kind of really shape me musically and with basic technique, and then, there's another teacher for the next level, and my current teacher kind of guides me in a mentorship way, but also still has so much to teach me. And I think learning is one of those things that will always be necessary as a musician. And even if you're not having an official teacher, I'll always want to kind of play to people and get advice.
Mm-hmm. Sheku, you mentioned Yo-Yo Ma. Isata, any sort of musical heroes of the piano specifically? And Sheku, anyone besides Yo-Yo Ma also?
Yeah, so I always loved Marta Argerich when I was younger, and Vladimir Ashkenazy. They were kind of the two that were always on the CD player when I was younger. And then also Rachmaninoff. I mean, I know he's not alive anymore, but you can still listen to his recordings on Spotify, which is so wonderful. And he was just such a wonderful pianist and composer. So he was also a big inspiration.
Yeah, I would say definitely Jacqueline Dupre and Rostropovich as the cellists I admire the most in terms of their playing, and have learnt so much from listening to them. I also listen to a lot of Yehudi Menuhin, who's a violinist. I just love the vocal quality, and he probably has over 1 billion different ways of connecting two notes, and I love that in his playing, and I've been really inspired by that.
Yeah. Go ahead, Tommy, with that audience question.
Yeah, we have one more audience question. So Elizabeth Yuan from New York asks, how do you think the performance during the pandemic will transform the music scene afterwards?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big question, and of course it's impossible to know exactly how. Of course, there are many things that I want to go back to how they were before in terms of full concert halls, etc. But I think many of the innovative things that have been happening could also continue. For example, Sheku and I did a concert a few months ago in a car park, which was semi-outside and mic'd up and in the middle of the summer, and it was really lovely. And it also brought kind of a wider audience that perhaps might not usually come to a classical concert. And I think projects like that should definitely continue even when the pandemic is over.
Yeah, we hope so. We found here, of course, that our digital footprint has certainly exceeded beyond our regional, geography. We've reached 68, 69 different countries this year with many thanks in part to your virtual residency. But people knowing about our organization, knowing about, the two of you and the other artists we present, we certainly hope and will plan on having some sort of digital presence after this is all over, not just focusing on our home concerts, but I think things like that, like the drive-in concerts and the garages, and getting those people who may not have necessarily taken the time to listen to classical music, but now because of our COVID reality, they're finding something to do, which is great that's happening globally with our drive-ins. We're looking to plan one here as well, so that's really fun. I'm curious how the two of you were, had you ever done any virtual recitals like we're all being basically forced to do these days prior to this year?
No, not that I don't think I have.
Not that I can remember. I don't think I'd ever done one before. So it was definitely a very new thing. And yeah, it's just something we had to just adapt to very quickly.
Yeah.
A couple more audience questions. Jennifer and Elisa Viejo wants to know if you have any advice on how to approach learning a brand new piece of music.
Do they mean like a new piece to you or a piece that's never?
That's a good question. I'm interpreting the question as a piece that's new to you.
Okay, I see. Yeah, I think. It depends on the piece. A lot of the time, I get to know pieces by. Well, I'm inspired to learn piece because I've heard someone play it, and of course, it's a tricky one because sometimes the first performance or first recording of a piece that you hear sometimes has such a strong impression on you that becomes the piece, and I think it's really, really important to then really look detailed in a detailed way at the score and
make it your own
and make it your own and really read about the pieces and listen to a range of recordings.
Sort of unhear that recording.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I think the score is such a wonderful kind of source of information and inspiration, and I think I definitely spend a lot of time kind of questioning things and picking out all of the little treasures that you might find in the score.
I have a follow-up to that. Have either of you had any truly new music written for you, either individually or as a duo?
I haven't yet, but I've got some hopeful. I can't talk about them yet, but I've got some hopeful projects coming up.
Good.
That will happen in the future.
Yeah, the last concert I did before the pandemic was a premiere of a piece I had written for me and another cellist for cello duo, which was a wild and crazy piece, but it was really, really such a wonderful experience to literally have no recording to listen to and really therefore investigate the score from fresh and come up with our own kind of stamp on this new piece.
Yeah, and actually I have to contradict myself because I've just remembered about 4 years ago I was in Portland and a composer called Darren Brown actually did write a piece for me. That was good. Nice.
Well, I do want to thank you both for spending some time with us this evening for you and afternoon for us here in California. I think sort of if we could just wrap up with kind of an imagination question. Imagine everything of this year is now history. We're headed back into a concert hall as close to as what we are used to as it can be in the future. What are you most looking forward to in the time that you can finally walk back out onto a stage again? The electricity in the hall, there's people in the seats, there's that electric hush just before the first note, and there's the music that lingers in the air just after you're finished. what are you most looking forward to when it's safe to go back?
I think for me, the biggest thing will be actually seeing people's faces in the audience, because I mean, often when I'm playing, I'll kind of subtly look out to the audience, and you get quite a lot of inspiration when you see if people are enjoying it, and you can see their facial expressions, and it's quite difficult. I mean, many people try to communicate with their eyes, but at the moment it mainly just looks like a sea of masks, and so it would be lovely when you can actually see people's faces and also talk to them afterwards, because we often meet the audience after our concerts for, yeah, and that's always really lovely, and that obviously hasn't been happening.
Yeah, I think as performers, it's really, really special to have this, time with an audience where you really make an impact on their lives, and to be in the room with them in that moment and to be able to interact with them is really, really special and a powerful feeling. And I really, really look forward to being able to do that regularly.
I imagine it will be an emotional moment.
Definitely, but I think it will also be something that happens gradually. So I'm not sure if there'll be a blinding moment, but hopefully there'll be a moment when you kind of realize you've arrived. Definitely.
Yeah.
Something that we are certainly all looking forward to, and I think you're right, it will be a gradual moment, but hopefully each of them are positively blinding in their own way. But thank you, Isata, thank you, Sheku, thank you, Brian, for all joining us for this conversation. Sheku and Isata conclude their residency with us next Sunday, December 20th, in their program, which will feature the Rachmaninoff Sonata for cello and piano. Thank you both again for being here with us now and for being part of this 2020 virtual residency. We hope to see you again, either digitally or in person. I know we're talking about you being in Orange County in 2 seasons from now, which we can't wait. I feel like we all want it to happen tomorrow. But thank you all so much. Thank you to all of you watching at home and wherever you may be. We hope that you join us for the next one of these. So thank you for now. Great to chat with you both, and stay safe, everyone. Stay healthy, and have a very happy and hopefully wonderful holidays to everyone.